Hello, welcome back, Alexandrian Codex. Point 4, TNO, USA, 1969. Let's keep going. It's been several days, a couple of days anyway. I've totally lost my place of, like, strategically or tactically what I was planning. So we just upgraded our rifles, right? That's why we have, like, no fucking production there. Cool. APCs are being replaced down here, right? Alright, sweet. You all are not drilling. Cool. Do I really need to be producing that many? Well, hello there. Past Alex, was it necessary to produce this many planes? Maybe. Maybe not. Who knows? I'm not making any convoys? Oh no. That's living the dream. Well, maybe not the dream, a dream. Living a dream. Okay, alright. I'm gonna unpause, and God willing, the National Party, or the Populist Party candidate isn't gonna be a fascist. Nope, you're in too deep. You just gotta keep playing. There's no help anymore. Propose a job corps. What does this do? Less political power. More consumer good. That seems bad, but sure, I'll do it. Why not? Oh, right. Read the flavor text, Alex. Read the flavor text. We're not playing Vicky 2 anymore. Youth employment rates in the United States are of great concern to the President, as well as to the Department of Labor. In yet another project to add to a regimen of proposed welfare and outreach programs, we aim to create the Job Corps. This organization, under the larger Department of Labor, would provide education to equip America's youth for a multitude of fields, as well as work until they can get back on our feet. They can get back on our feet. Maybe stick with one subject rather than two subjects in a sentence. Their feet, or until we can get back on our feet, not until they can get back on our feet. Unless they're using our feet for some reason. The majority of their service would be spent improving national parks, impoverished communities, and other areas which have fallen under the responsibility of the federal government. Hopefully, the program will provide vital training and experience to those who need it the most. Yeah. Pick yourself up by the bootstraps? No. Steal somebody else's bootstraps. Unsurprisingly, England has defeated Scotland. In the aftermath of a campaign many are calling reminiscent of the Western Front of the First World War, England has succeeded in defeating the communist Scottish. Sorry, this isn't Scottish, this is Scottish. Too many C's in here. Scottish army isn't in full control of the situation. England's flag flies over every part of the island. Scotland's government has been captured. Despite organized surrender of Scottish forces, many smaller units are still in action, fighting guerrilla warfare against the occupying English. Despite this, England has now crushed any threat to its ambitions to restore the United Kingdom, or a territory of similar geographical control. Now, London is almost certain to declare themselves a rightful successor to the British Empire and demand the same respect. Okay, rule Britannia. The effect of the songs accompanying those events is kind of lost when the background music is just blasting full bore. Oh, you know, the Commonwealth is they're our ally. Is it a little, Monka? Is it a little worrisome? Yeah, but like, I'm sure it's fine. It's fine. When has an expansionist Britain ever caused anyone any trouble? The inauguration of Michael Harrington. 700,000. According to news helicopters and National Park Service's press release, that's how many people Michael Harrington is looking at from the Capitol building's East Presidio. A brittle, freezing wind has been blowing down all day from the north, cutting through the long coats and pillbox hats of the assembled dignitaries. But those dignitaries aren't his people. His people are gathered below the stage. They're students, from the august heights of Columbia to America's vast networks of community college and state schools, and activists and organizers fighting for dignity, for justice, for a fair shake, in the fields of the Central Valley and the streets of Harlem. They're union men and women proudly paying their dues and giving management the middle finger, gathered in front of the Capitol, stretching past the Supreme Court, past the Folger Library, sprawling past the city laid out for democracy. Around the world, people watch in hesitancy. In Germania and Tokyo, tyrants whisper about the best ways to subvert him. In capitals across South America, people wonder if the stick-waving Yankees really are finding a new way. Across America, millions watch the spectacle. Some love him, some hate him, some aren't quite sure yet, but all are waiting to see what he does. A change is coming to the country, and President-elect Michael Harrington is about to usher it all in. At least, those 700,000 hope he will. Michael Harrington was born in St. Louis to a Catholic family at the beginning of 1928. Growing up, this is not a flattering photo of him. Growing up, he attended Catholic schools and inherited conservative views from his parents. Same though. However, while studying at Yale and the University of Chicago, he began taking on Christian views that advocated for social and economic progressivism, that opposed what he saw as the exploitation of the common American from capitalism. This approach, which was notably anti-collectivist, inspired him to write The Catholic Worker and join the Catholic Worker movement. After the war ended, he was disgusted with the Catholic Worker and its apparent ignorance of the threat of fascism. Seeing the need to join more radical groups, he joined up with the Trotskyist Max Schuttman, a virulently anti-Bucharinist and anti-fascist group. Harrington continued to shift further left, while retaining his opposition to strict collectivization. By the late 1950s, his strong views on civil rights, as well as his distaste for increasingly authoritarian Socialist Party of America, led him to join the rising Nationalist Progressive Party of America. Now, as President of the United States, Michael Harrington advocates for his own take on democratic socialism, one for liberation and freedom, both economic and social, for all. Catholic communist? Hell yeah. This is a very American tradition. Okay, so this tree has stuck around. Let's go, Michael. They said it couldn't be done, but for the first time in American history, a self-declared socialist, even if some in his party disagree, has been elected to the White House. Michael Edward Harrington Jr., center-left firebrand of the NPP, was raised to the highest office on platform of workers' rights, progressive legislation reform, and what Harrington refers to as a fight for the poor. A comprehensive assault on poverty and a lack of institutional support faced by many of America's faceless poor. The latter will involve comprehensive welfarist legislation on a scale unseen in American politics. Unemployment funds, veteran pensions, and assistance for the handicapped and aged have polled well with audiences and will likely be keystones of the Harrington agenda. This root and branch reform is expected to consume the majority of the president's term in office and will face stiff opposition from Harrington's many political enemies, including many from within his own party's conservative and radical right-wing factions. But if the earnest, young ex-Catholic knows anything at all, it's how to wage a just war. And this war will be the most righteous of all. It should begin appointing men and women needed to win the war against poverty. God says a dead fascist today keeps the sin away. That's the good word. Amen. We already read that. Well, we read something to that effect. Hello, Far Eastern Socialist Republic. You want to join my faction? Comrade? Now, I don't think I played this far, so I'm going in blind at this point. Decrease in poverty. Thanks to our greater poverty relief efforts, as well as expansion of the civilian economy, the poverty rate has decreased significantly enough to be notable internationally. As our government congratulates itself for its effort, our first official state projections on the impact and improved popular prosperity are filled, stating that people are able to access superior goods, economic opportunity shall be greatly increased, and our workforce shall be capable of greater and greater feats. Monthly population drops, recruitable factor goes up, stability, war support, construction speed, research speed, factory and dockyard output all go up. Taxable population goes up, and income goes up. To be fair, we owe all of that to LBJ. LBJ really set us in a very, very good direction. My fellow Americans, I'm humbled to accept your decision of the great country this night. The Bible on which I will swear an oath this January behooves me to serve you all as equals. Rich, poor, black, white, country folk, or urbanite. Looking at the crowd here with me as I speak, it reminds me that much remains to be done in the task of making America a place where we can all be truly free. I'll be frank, I was not elected as a compromise, nor will I act as if I was bound by the change which strangled Nixon and others before him. My position gives power, but it also bestows vision. I see the tired young mother, struggling at her workplace against invisible sexism that chokes her career and her family. I see the tired old farmer yoked to the agriculture companies that rob him of his due share. I see the fearful young Negro walking these city streets, knowing his every breath is a threat to those who would seek his harm. Their struggle to live, work, and play is my struggle as well, and I will make it our struggle. For if the other America dies a quiet death, just off the television screen, I, your president, will have failed at leading this one. And the struggle that defines these forgotten ones is not just one of poverty, but of culture, of soul and spirit. Therefore, it will be my task and my privilege to bring true and lasting reform to a system which shackles with crime, unemployment, despair, and low health. I implore all Americans to stand with me and with them. My fellow Americans, my party and my country pledge me to protect the Union indivisible, to help me save the Union indivisible, the hungry, tired, poor, those yearning to breathe free. For if we do not lift our lamp beside this golden door we are given and beckon them in, then we do not deserve either. Thank you, good night, and God bless America, with liberty and justice for all. Dude, yeah, I saw the Minecraft Steve coming to Smash Ultimate. That's just weird. It's just weird. I don't even have an emotional response to it. It's just very strange. Shake things up. One of Harrington's first goals for his new administration will be simple: make his presence known. The Beltway is full of those who would deride and oppose his efforts, bring reform to the systems that shelter them. In coordinated mix of meetings and speeches, Harrington intends to make it clear that the lobbyists, cronies, and career politicians choking America will be shown no quarter in his efforts to save it. Class privilege, money politics, the wealthy elite, everything will have to go. There will be no sacred cows left untouched in the pursuit of justice for the American people. In this, Harrington will be met halfway by those loyal to his cause in the party. A slew of proposals regarding radical reforms to judicial terms, healthcare, and pension reform are already being drafted by the MPP left and moderate members, blowing the winds of change all the way to Capitol Hill. Of course, he could also use this as a method for parsing support for his programs and policies within the Republican-Democrat front, for enemies are best kept closer than friends, especially ones who you happen to agree with. I guess it's not America destroying itself, so it can't be that bad. Yeah, I mean, America's still destroying itself. The latest estimate for the GDP growth of the United States in the last quarter was negative 31.2%. 0.4%? 31 it's 31 something percent. That is 3 times worse than the prior worst quarter, which was in the late 50s. It is the worst quarter for the gross domestic product of the United States in recorded history. But yeah, no, everything's fine up here. We're doing fine. Everything's okay. Yep, we don't have a once-in-a-century economic depression about to throttle us. Nah, not, well, throttling us currently. Michael Harrington sat idly in the Oval Office, admiring its smooth, near-flawless contours. Supported by cozy cream-colored wallpaper and deep blue drapes. He'd requested such modifications to be made, but it never truly sunk in that the office was his now. With his head so far in the clouds, the president hardly heard the knock at the door that he should have been expecting. "Come in." "Come in," he said, snapping out of his trance. In walked an older, slender man with a deeply grayed hair. Harrington had been expecting Glenn H. Taylor, having called him only a few days ago. Now he'd finally arrived. "Mr. President," he said, sitting down across from Harrington, "I understand from your call you're looking for me as a cabinet member?" "That's right. Taylor, a president needs a cabinet." "Taylor. That's right, Taylor. A president needs a cabinet." Okay, I thought it was Taylor, a president. I'm like, what a weird name. "I've dallied for too long at a formation of mine. Want you to be the new Secretary of State." Taylor looked taken aback. "Really? You want me to be your Secretary of State?" "I just don't know. I was a politician for only a few years back in the 50s. Now I'm just a middling activist and businessman." "Why me?" "During your tenure as senator, you put up some of the most fierce opposition to the far right I've ever seen. You're determined, hardworking, educated. I need people like that in this administration. I need people like you." Taylor sighed, rubbing his chin in contemplation. "It's a big responsibility," he said, pausing, "but I'm honored to accept." Yeah. Big late-stage capitalism vibes going on lately. Not one step atop another. POTUS discussion, war on poverty, to be this administration's main stance, outlining potential opponents on progressive welfare policy and administration, Senate and House. Note, POTUS requests direct support to be okay. Meeting with staffers. Alright, so these are just some notes. Cool. Yeah, National Progressive Party grows further divided. Alright, a moral agenda. President Harrington spoke frequently about the need to bring a more American morality to American politics on the campaign trail. And he intends to follow through on this in office. His policies will target the weak, vulnerable, and faceless of American society, the other America, and to drum up support for restive urban evangelicals and religious ruralites. Harrington has emphasized this essential community continuity of welfarism and the teachings of the Bible and human decency. The aim is to make the hand of the state benign to the American mind, drawing from the social gospel of earlier decades to do so. Of course, this morality will serve a somewhat less innocent role in pinpointing potential sources of support for planned legislative reforms being drawn up by the MPP Center headquarters, and certainly might help in easing some of the more aggressive policies we have planned under the noses of voters. American people know better than to look a gift horse in the mouth. You don't take a gift horse in the mouth either. And this horse now rides with the eagle and the cross, bright enough to blind any stray eyes that might wander too near. General on the War of Poverty. President Michael Harrington walked into a surprisingly spacious but somewhat dumpy office of Maureen Neuberger, senator from Oregon. Seeing her sitting at her desk on the far side of the room, with Harrington closing the door, she stood up. "Mr. President," she said warmly, "glad you came to see me personally. I understand that's how you like to do these sort of things, yes? Would you like anything? Coffee? Got some freshly brewed." He needn't have asked anything about the coffee. Harrington could smell the roasted, bitter flavor from just outside the office. He must have made it in anticipation. A thank you, most likely, for choosing him. She was on to him. He'd never said anything about a cabinet position over the phone. "I'd like a cup, yes," he finally said. "With sugar, but no cream." She obliged him, returning with the delightfully sweet, but decidedly dark cup of liquid. "It's very clear to me that you know why I'm here," said Harrington. "Indeed," she said. "What position do you want me for?" "Secretary of the Treasury." She raised an eyebrow. "Treasury? Well, I suppose that's what I'd be most qualified for." You're intelligent, respected, you won't back down a fight with Wall Street or any other business interest because yours don't align with theirs. We need someone like that for the war on poverty. I think you're quite well suited. Well, she said, I suppose my answer ought to be yes. Yeah, she's pretty okay. Production infrastructure speed. You don't take any horses on the mouth. In the mouth, on the mouth, around the mouth. You can tell it's early in the morning for me. I actually slept in until like 6 this morning. I'm working on it. General Winter. President Harrington stepped into the office of former Army Lieutenant Colonel William Winter, now turned Lieutenant Governor of Mississippi. It's rare to be a progressive Democrat in Dixie these days, so Winter caught Harrington's eye quickly. Mr. President, said Winter, barely looking up from the documents on his desk. I assume this is about a cabinet position. I have no idea how people continue to figure that out, said Harrington, and we call and say I'd like to meet with you. I can't give away my intentions, right? Respectfully, sir, Lieutenant Governor does not typically engage in meetings with the President of the United States. If you wanted to see me in person, it'd be for something important. So, what do you want me for? Secretary of Defense. Without meeting a beat, Winter replied, of course I accept. Figured that's why you were here, so I had some time to mull it over in my head, but tell me, why not someone more experienced? I only reached Lieutenant Colonel. Even then, I never saw much combat. True, but you got the rank for something. Plus, you won Lieutenant Governor as a progressive Democrat in the most southern, hard, conservative state that there is. You're a leader. You inspire people. And that's gotta count for something. Alright, Secretary Winter, what do you got? Alright. This is a pretty solid cabinet. I mean, the war support, not great, but I'm not planning on starting any wars. Holy shit, we have positive political power? What? When did that happen? Or is it just so negative I can't tell it's negative anymore? Just go ahead and click that increase party unity button I've been putting off clicking for, you know, ever. From the memoirs of Edward Michael Harrington Jr. They'd come to me in my scattered thoughts that in a busy newspaper hall in New York all those years ago, my God was quiescent, if not outright non-existent. But my faith is the essential worth, the dignity and pride of man, that which is granted to each of us at birth, and that which the world cannot wrest away save through death. That faith could no more leave me than I could choose to leave my bones and skin. Hence I pursued a singular goal once in office, most peculiar to my peers and aggravating to my opponents. The return to an honest American morality in policymaking, away from the gilded sham it become in the hands of capital. I began my third speech at Congress with this story. Any child will tell you, and proudly at that if one were to see a starving beggar on the side of the road, the right, Christ-like American would do something to help him. Bring him home, treat his wounds. Instead, if the child were to recommend that we leave him at the roadside to live or die, any parent would rebuke him. The desire to protect the Commonwealth is ingrained in the nature of man itself. Yet because our country's business halls and public offices deem poverty a sin and helplessness an untreatable illness, we've all become hypocrites. We rob the beggar of his right to health care and safety, the mental patient of his right to equal and proper treatment, the criminal of his right to redemption and restoration to the world. My question, friends, is this. When your children grow old enough to see you as an equal, to know your accomplishments for what they are, will they call you a hypocrite too? Someone who knew his duty to his fellow man, but spurned it because he was sick, weak, afraid, or simply had too much to lose. And that terrible title of hypocrite, will you deserve it? We must love our neighbors as ourselves, no matter the cost. I increase party unity because party unity keeps the MPP from becoming Yakis and the Yakis from growing. It keeps people centrist more than anything else. And stops, well, maybe not stops, but slows the drift to the other parties. Because if we look right now, the Republican-Democrat Party is constantly bickering, and we are only just willing to put aside our differences. American society is disunified. Unity is something we do have to push for, but unity under, our leadership. Convince the Republicans or pressure the far right. No, dude, fuck the far right. They're a tiny minority. The Republicans, they make up 23%. Also, they're closer ideologically. The progressive wing of the Republican Democrats might have broken ranks with Harrington's circle on party allegiances, but their hearts are in the right place. In fact, they might prove more reliable allies in pushing Harrington's policies than the principled opposition in the party. And the legitimacy of having members of the old Beltway machine stand with us will do much to promote us to skeptical Americans. Simply wouldn't do to neglect such a valuable source of political capital, and nothing gets American people cheering faster than a rare display of cross-aisle unity. Meetings between Lyndon Johnson, Congressman Rusk, and Harrington staff will begin the process of reconciliation. Party's rightists are likely to be inflamed by selling out to the establishment, and no one knows how the far party unity can be pushed, but reform comes at a cost. And progressive movement can't afford to sacrifice its ideals on the altar of political expediency. I'm genuinely amazed the Republicans and Democrats are still this big. A time for heroes. Washington wasn't all that different from academia, or the lecture circuit. President Harrington was discovering Congress didn't lack for opinionated men and pet theories and projects, even if Harrington thought they were dearly misguided. As president, even if everyone here is on board with the program, we're going to have to convince the people we're on their side, Vice President Irving Howell said. Get people supportive of our reforms. Less opposition, the Republican Democrats will be able to put up. Harrington noted, wasn't rocket science. He promised America a presidency of the common man, and he would keep his promises. The only question was where to start. What about the veterans? Defense Secretary William Winter stated, America has thousands of men who served in South Africa and the Pacific. Nobody's gonna object to us treating our heroes right. A home for heroes. Nobody would question the need to repay America's heroes. Soldiers for their service. Far right of the MPP would be ecstatic. The Republican Democrats would be hard-pressed to say no. And if the veterans got a fair deal from the government, then the people might come around to being included eventually. Okay. Got some new decisions to finalize this bill. Interesting. Yeah, you'd think LBJ going full progressive and losing re-election in a landslide that the party would split. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are constantly bickering. No, they're voting together. What? No, they're constantly bickering, but they're voting together. Okay, yeah. Taxes on the rich. Alright, let's secure fund. Hold up. Tax the middle class? No. Let's tax the rich. Fund job training programs. Provide scholarships. I have no desire to tax the middle class. And bourgeoisie stands moderate on our reforms. What would this do? No, I'm not taxing the middle class. I'm taxing the rich to make this work. And I need to not just blow all of our political power as soon as I can. Michael Harrington sat at the head of a long meeting table. Exquisite mahogany, carved and surrounded by what might have been a little over a baker's dozens of politicians he all knew by name. McGovern, Dole, Rumsfeld, McNamara, Gore, Rockefeller, Ford, and several others. So, gentlemen, Harrington began, brought you all here today because I believe we share common interests, may be able to work together for those interests. I'm officially asking for the support of the Republican Democrats going forward. Our administration needs more support to pass legislation through Congress, and I'm of the belief that an agreement between our two parties may be reached. So what do you want us to do? Replied George McGovern. Be willing, but I won't just blindly follow you. Think about it more as a bipartisan agreement for the common good, said Harrington. I can't fucking read today, Jesus. Absolutely not, interjected McNamara. And we think we'd rally behind you? When I tell this to the Democrats in Congress, it won't be pretty. Dole was next to speak. Hey now, let's not be too hasty. Yes, the president here might have a few radical ideas, but we could get some serious legislation passed with this alliance. Several murmurs of approval went up around the Republican side of the table. The few Democrats remained silent till Donald Rumsfeld stood up. Listen to yourselves. Rather break up the party for some progressive pipe dream than focus on what really matters? I won't add any more fuel to this fire. Goodbye. With that, he stood up and walked out of the room, followed by McNamara, an inconsequential senator whom Harrington couldn't remember the name of. Let him go, said Bob Dole. Bob Dole. they'll come around sometime or another. Mr. President, I'm all for this alliance. Despite your more radical policies, I have great respect for you and your dedication to the well-being of America. However, I'm not so sure my compatriots have such convictions. Please give us a few minutes to discuss this. Harrington obligingly left the room, checking his watch every minute or so. 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 7 minutes, 9. Went on and on until suddenly the conference room gently opened, with an entourage of Republicans filing out. Bob Dole stopped and looked at the president, nodding gently. A victory for the progressives. Republican Democrats grow further divided. Oh no. Had a Zionist 1% invented Corona to control us conspiracy theorists tell you to buy a book off of Amazon. Conspiracy theory book on Amazon, yeah, the main business of the single richest man in the world. Listen, conspiracy theorists are... they need help, right? They really do. It's easy to make fun of them. Well, flat earthers and people like that, but at this point, it's very clear these people are very manipulated and abused by the media that we have and our terrible, terrible education in the United States, at least. It's truly heartbreaking. Lens flashes, handshakes, wide smiles to the camera, the nation passes. In a series of well-publicized and widely lauded messages, Harrington and the moderates have united with Lyndon Johnson and fellow Republican Democrat progressives in a common front to promote vital and far-reaching reforms in American politics. The fact that neither side agrees on precisely what the reforms will entail only adds to the mystique surrounding the sudden bipartisan shift. The next logical step would be make what is already obvious public knowledge, consolidating support of what some are describing newer dealers. Harrington's circle will be able to force a confrontation with conservatives in the MPP, but on his terms. Bipartisan support will provide a powerful intimidation factor for die-hard opponents of the party right, and might convince them to reach some form of consensus with the administration at large. Like, it's just incredible to me how absolutely paranoid and just insanely delusional a lot of Americans have become. But it shouldn't really be all that surprising given our terrible public education system, the fact that we use an education model that encourages and really pressures individuals to conform more than conforming to what they're told to do rather than understanding why they're being told to do what they're being told to do. Yeah. A lack of critical analysis and an understanding of how information citing works. Working class are disadvantaged. Hey, tax the rich, provide scholarships? What does this do? Sounds good to me, and we're out of PP. I also love the ones that say 9/11 was an inside job and then go, all school shootings are top secret Hollywood production, right? Like, they actually killed 3,000 people in 9/11, but then can't bring themselves to actually kill children, so there's no loose ends. Funny joke. Yeah, I don't know. The people who are convinced that 9/11 was an inside job, I get the rationale. I really do. But it doesn't matter who did 9/11. It really doesn't. Because we can't prove it one way or another. And, I mean, it was probably foreign radical extremists pushed to that effort by American foreign policy. Right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's our fault either way by our national policy. What's more important about 9/11 are the political reforms that get pushed through using September 11th as an excuse. You know, the Department of Homeland Security and all of the Homeland Defense or Homeland Security acts, the, oh my god, what the fuck was it called? The Patriot Act? There we go. That's what's concerning. That's what you need to look at. Disasters, travesties, attacks by foreign or alien powers, externalized threats, whether they be from nature or human hands, is often the excuse or the justification given for the stripping away of rights, the centralization of government, the extension of government control or authority. Authoritarianism takes root there, and that should really be what conspiracy theorists are, you know, focusing on, because that's the actual material documented thing that happened that's really problematic. But nah, let's just say George Soros sends thousands of dollars to protesters because we're fucking crazy. In recent weeks, several of the far-right wing of the National Progressive Party have officially walked across the aisle and joined the Democratic Party. In addition, Democrats have decidedly grown closer to the far right in response. It appears that this sudden extreme action is in response to a conference held between the Republican-Democrat Party and the Harrington administration, in which Republicans and the president agreed to work together. Few Democrats invited to the meeting, including Robert McNamara and Donald Rumsfeld, left quickly after they claimed the president was not interested in making compromises. New alliance between Republicans and progressives is almost visible in Congress, with two groups voting almost unanimously on the legislative proposals. A fiery speech given by Strom Thurmond in the most recent Senate vote shows just how far the MPP had split over the issue, Thurmond calling the president a traitor to the party. Despite large political shakeup and new counter-alliance seemingly between the far right and the Democrats, it appears that the most poor and middle Americans are warming up to the Harrington administration. Same, however, cannot be said for their wealthy employers who stand to lose millions from the president's social programs. You're goddamn right, you're gonna lose a lot. I don't need your support. Fuck the rich. Slaughterhouse 5. I sneezed. One book that enjoyed overwhelming success during the anti-war years was Kurt Vonnegut's classic, Slaughterhouse 5. Book's protagonist, Billy Pilgrim, is captured by the Wehrmacht during the defense of Scotland and is held in a slaughterhouse in southeast London. Billy's a poorly trained soldier who's come to dislike war, refusing to fight for his country. During an Allied bombing of the city, his acquaintance and fellow soldier, Roland Weary, dies of infection. Shortly before his demise, he blames his death on Billy. Billy escapes the slaughterhouse, and the novel proceeds to his near-death experience in a plane crash, where he was abducted by aliens. These aliens, the Tralfamadorians, taught Billy their outlook on life, death, and fate, causing Billy to become an orator. Critics condemned the disorderly structure of the book, but praised its clear anti-war message. Many readers appreciated the way Vonnegut included his own war experiences in the novel, quickly making the book a bestseller. The book itself was printed in multiple European languages, but it was banned throughout Europe shortly after its publication. Though the book's anti-war message Through the war's anti-war message, book's anti-war message. There we go. We can read sentence. One can see Vonnegut's disdain for the Reich and the Japanese. bring it into the open. We've secured support in the Senate, Congress. We need to bring the far right for the poor, the fight for the poor to American legislative bodies. But as with all revolutions, we must bring this fight to the common man to assure its success. Harrington plans to announce its plans for comprehensive legislative welfare on the steps of the Capitol in a speech that will be open to the American people and broadcast on public networks. The popular support we gather will be critical to mustering support for conservative establishment hotly opposed to big government intervention and sweeping aside any of our own party with personal reservations to the program. Will also act as a decision point for many of the political figures who've remained indecisive in their support for our programs, forcing them to take a stand for or against the fight. We will bring their real sympathies and prejudices to the light of day. Our own advisors suggest this will work to our advantage. It will be considerably more difficult to predict how this will affect an already polarized political atmosphere, but given our prior efforts to secure support on the Hill, we are likely to carry the day. Word hard. Word very hard. Me no read word good. Me no brain good. I guess we start on the 1970 text. It's early, but I'd rather take the overtime penalty than dick around with more air doctrines. I think that's a reasonable place to be at. I'm gonna check on production here, actually. How we doing on this? Okay, APCs are all done. Fantastic. So I'm gonna pivot this to infantry equipment. Why no face cam? You know, honestly, I'm not really sure. I just turned it off and didn't turn it back on. I cut my hair like a week ago. And by cut, I mean I buzzed it all off. And I want to give it time to even out. It's still super thin. And I don't like the whole skinhead look. I like how it feels having really buzzed hair. But I don't like looking like a fucking skinhead. So once it starts growing out, then I'll be streaming with the webcam on, so like in a week or so. Help the bourgeoisie out. No. Endear the bourgeois? No. Fuck the bourgeois. Hear out the other America. They love our reforms, they're irrelevant. This would improve, yeah, we don't. Oh my god, there's so much here. Oh no. Oh no. Reduce the influence of the bourgeois. Ooh, I like that. Yeah, let's try to save up for that. I need 200 political power, but that's very exciting. Okay, we can meet with activists or cross the country. Will ensure America remains more committed to pursuing a plan reforms. Okay. Will increase Senate support for future bills. Relations with the White House and everyone will improve. Relations with the White House, middle class, working class, and other America will improve. Huh. Yeah, I'm tempted to meet with activists. Will increase Senate support for future bills. This will ensure the Americans remain more committed to pursuing... God, I don't know. This gives political power, and right now, that's very tempting. This gives political power... Okay, so they both end up giving 50 political power, so that's a moot point. There's rural poor, urban poor. Soften their hearts. Open their minds. Middle class, rich. This seems useful. Talks with Chavez. Oh. Interesting. I honestly don't know. These seem like the same thing. They all have events that fire off, and the events, I'm sure, are quite different. Work with unions. Alright, speed read this. Fight for the poor will be determined by the electorate. Why we publicize debate meetings with prominent figures in the Progressive Front from trade unions, solidifying support for our cause while assuring them their needs. This might be seen as faintly elitist gesture by the common citizen who will do more to aid internal efforts to push reforms in the law. I don't need internal support. I need this. I have internal support. Look at this shit. We're good. I mean, this might grow popularity of, leftists working with labor. Yeah, let's go leftist. Meeting with activists. The success of our fight for the poor will be determined by its popularity amongst our electorate. And in the national progressive movement that propelled us into power will be critical in securing national support. It's time to meet with stakeholders whose help will be invaluable in getting our planned reforms passed. Think the movements which supported us. Not lost on us, of course. It's not lost on us, of course, that these movements expect concrete policy measures that benefit their causes in return for their support. Harrington's aims to conduct a series of widely publicized policy debate meetings with prominent figures from the Progressive Front, from trade unions to senators, solidifying their support for our cause while assuring them that their needs will be met in our subsequent legislation through debate over planned programs. It might be seen as faintly elitist gesture by the common citizen. It will certainly do more to aid internal efforts to push reforms in the law. Results are what the American people need right now. I don't want to be elitist, but I do want to be leftist, so we doing that. Industry, yeah, maybe, but let's go for this to get even more factories. Oh shit, we're at 500 Navy experience. Right, and the reason I wanted the Navy experience is... Pardon me? I'm not using all my dockyards? Are you... I am, but I'm not. What? Oh, because it's being used to repair stuff. Yeah, okay. Did I look at the EU4 1.31 dev diary? Added new idea groups for every government type, and no, I haven't, but I haven't been inspired by what I've been seeing them talk about lately, to put it politely. It seems like they're trying indigenous ideas. Oh no. Yeah, it's clear that they're trying to do something. Like, they're trying to make it less yikes, but I don't think they are accomplishing that. the intention's there, but having a bunch of white people work on that just seems like a... Nope. It's one thing if they're white people who have, like, studied this sort of stuff. But they're not that. They're not that. And it's very, very yikes. Okay, so battleships. If we could just stack on heavy batteries on this thing, but I feel like that would be a mistake. Especially when ship-to-ship anti-missile batteries are so fucking good. Let's give you another AA battery. You know what? Not an AA battery. Let's put a couple of secondary dual-purpose batteries in my... Two, I mean like three. And let's strap some more missiles to this bad boy. There we go. That's decent. Let's do a comparison to the cruisers I'm already pumping out. Manpower, it's like 5 times the manpower. Surface detection is lower. Surface visibility is twice as high. Sub detection is garbage. No, it's higher. The battleships have better sub detection. That's weird. Insert joke about sub detection. Twice the HP. Oh my god, like 3.2 times the armor. AA is twice as much. Light attack is more. Piercing is more. You mean to tell me the Albany class I'm producing don't have any heavy... Oh my god, yeah, alright, yep. Ba-da-dum, bum, bum, ba-da-da, 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 bum. Bum, ba-da-dum, bum. Yeah, one of those. How are we doing on our Navy? Yeah, I got a feeling... Yeah, we have a 33 of these fucking cruisers sitting in reserve. Okay. No, absolutely indigenous ideas are just based around North America, and they're probably based around Eastern North America, too. They're probably very specific. I'm not trying to be critical, but, you know... They've done a piss-poor job of respectfully representing American cultures in the past and indigenous cultures in the past, so you know, if it's better, if it's really genuinely better, we'll see, but I'm not hopeful for it. Gathering the progressives. Highly publicized, well-photographed meetings, all smiles and handshakes in the Oval Office, speeches to League of Women Voters, National Urban League, roundtables with environmentalists, quiet invitations are sent out to anti-war and feminist groups, even quieter coffee clashes with the leaders of student unions and with radicals who'd sooner burn down the White House than set foot in it. Organized by experienced hatchet wielders and electoral idealists fresh off the campaign. Everyone in America's disparate progressive movements has different wants, different needs and policy programs, and egos to soothe. Everybody will be needed to mobilize voters, antagonize fence-sitting legislators, turn out protests in favor of the administration, help construct a coalition that the president can rely on. Some will find it distasteful, but the Harrington administration represents the best chance for radical material gain in the history of the American left. White House is betting that America's activists and organizers will decide Paris is truly worth a mass. Yeah, I don't know why they haven't changed the name of primitives. Yeah, the word is even very problematic. It's work with the unions. Union movement, support of workers' right, workplace reform, and its opposition to corporate greed made it one of the biggest sources of support during Harrington's campaign. He intends to make good on his word. Meeting with the leaders of the AFL-CIO and the influential Brotherhood of Teamsters, as well as leaders from our own government's public sector unions, we assure the labor movement of Harrington's support. Provide a platform of valuable discussion on Harrington's increasingly public workplace rights policy agenda. It's not going to come without challenges, however. The labor movement is known for socialist tendencies, and our association with them could put at risk alienating more conservative parts of our already fragile voter base. Pundits threaten economic disaster if we allow the power of unions to run roughshod over the market, and the labor movement itself is a mass movement we cannot hope to control. One wrong move in the hands of the workers could deliver us a stinging blow. Now, how hard is it to call them Native Americans? Or, I don't know, indigenous? First peoples? Like, there's so many other things you could call them than primitives. For the name of the tech group, yeah. Okay, for the time being, I want to save up to 200 to reduce the influence of the bourgeois. I wish I had known that was a thing. I would have saved it. Broken Arrow, some of our fears. Approximately 40 minutes ago, B-52 Stratofortress on airborne alert patrol out of the Naval Air Station Silfos on Iceland radioed its distress call and accompanying an encrypted message. Message indicated the aircraft's vertical stabilizer had partially broken off. Crew would be forced to ditch in the Norwegian Sea. Aboard the aircraft was one Mark 28 thermonuclear weapon. As such, the incident was being classified as Broken Arrow. There's a loose nuclear bomb out there. Given known weather conditions, an established United States Air Force security safety protocols, we believe the crew is most likely alive and floating approximately 150 miles southwest of Jan Mayen. The wreckage of their craft and potentially the accompanying weapon would most likely still be visible from the air. No indications that the German military is presently aware of the situation, but given known German radar capabilities, it's overwhelmingly likely this will not be the case within 24 hours. We recommend relevant Navy and Air Force elements be immediately tasked to rescue and retrieval operations. Oh no. This won't end well. Veteran service goes to Congress. It's good. Send it through. Harrington looked from his dog-eared copy of the proposed Veteran Service Act, giving his affirmation to the latest draft. Approval in hand, his army of aides scattered out of the Oval Office to carry the draft to Henry Jackson and the Senate and to other key lawmakers in Washington. Outside the White House, the night grew darker as the clock chimed midnight. Harrington rubbed his eyes, dry from the strain of reading through the draft. Taking a close look at every line, the first act, the one which everyone would follow, would be perfect. Senator Jackson would ensure that the rest of the draft would go through Congress to take care of the rest. It ought to be easy, Harrington thought. Everybody loved veterans. MPP could finally stick it to the R&Ds for not even being soft on fascists, but ungrateful to its soldiers. Education subsidies for veterans, increase access to healthcare, disability payments to the injured. Who in their right mind would oppose it? Harrington sighed. Been an exhausting night, regardless, and it'd only get harder from here. Yeah, Tenochtitlan was the most populous city in the world for a while. Mayans made crazy astronomy advances. No, it's Eurocentric trash to refer to them as primitives. The accuracy of Mayan astrology and astronomy is mind-boggling. Like, some of the architectural achievements of the Inca, Aztecs, and Maya are astounding. The Hisatsumom, not the Pueblo. Pueblo is not the right word. For like the civilizations in here built road networks rivaling that of Rome. There are incredible structures that were built over here. I mean, the political alliances that existed in here were astounding, and in here were astounding. Like, these are very refined cultures. They are not, and were not, primitive. Primitive is a term came to popular use in the Victorian era. It's justification for the white man's burden and imperialism. European imperialism was always pushed by this notion that it was the guiding light of civilization, that it was the white man's burden to spread civilizations to these primitive and barbaric corners of the world. It shouldn't be used as a word. It's a mistake, and Paradox should really know better. And if they don't, then they need to hire more social scientists, historians, and, people who aren't just World War II fanboys. I wonder if they had, like, Rome, if they'd call them primitive. For photographs of our keyhole reconnaissance satellites, Kriegsmarine has dispatched a sizable flotillas of minesweepers, submarine rescue ships, and even cruisers to the approximate location at the downed B-52. Additionally, Luftwaffe aircraft have been detected in Norwegian Sea by multiple Iceland-based radar stations. We believe they've detected the B-52's crash and intend to salvage the wreckage and nuclear weapon along with any survivors. This is absolutely critical threat to our national security and technological capabilities. However, we can stop this. CIA possess certain back channels within the German government. We advise a secret meeting be sent to the German leadership at once, demanding they halt the flotilla so we can rescue the crew. Do otherwise would be a blow to national security and prestige. I'm pretty sure all you can ever do in here is constantly escalate. I think that the AI only ever escalates this. Yeah, we're taking the hit. Like, I'm pretty sure those events don't do anything except spiral into World War III. I've never seen one end in a way that isn't like, and now you're fighting. So I'm not engaging with it. Maybe they do work, maybe I've just had a really bad run of luck, but The NPP is a platonic ideal of a big tent party. But in a big tent, there are only so many people and factions that can be attended to. So it is with American labor. Plenty of unions, spearheaded by the Ruth Brothers United Auto Workers, threw their whole weight behind the Harrington campaign. Others, like the IBEW, UMWA, and SMWIA, all have leadership that's much more suspicious of the president. Many of them have powerful machines that the MPP's political efforts rely upon, which they're loath to give up and which we would regret crossing. There are a number of ways we can deal with America's unions, but they boil down to two major options. On one hand, we could bank on the UAW and their progressive unions, give us more of their support. They're ideologically aligned with us and more reliable, especially in the North, but the main backlash from moderates elsewhere in the country, which could bode poorly for future efforts. On the other hand, we could reach out to moderate unions, calm their worries about our administration. However, it's unlikely we have time or political capital to address both. Walter Reuther will understand if we have to make compromises. He'll never support us anyway. No. We're not pissing off the middle class. Let's meet with senators. We've achieved a majority in the House of Representatives, but the Senate, with its ties to old money and patronage networks, has eluded us. It's high time we begin talks with Senate power brokers to ensure a favorable outcome to proposed bills, at least on paper. Senators Lyndon Johnson and McGovern on the Republican-Democrat side of the aisle are difficult to work with. It's likely we'll have to smooth over many of our personal grievances, make a deal with them viable. But they seem to be the best option we have to reach a divided Congress. Harrington's plan is this: emphasize the unity of a new progressive movement. He will lead close talk doors with LBJ, McGovern, and other Rep. Dem senators, smooth out the kinks in our relationship, leave arm in arm with the Senate in his pocket. Some of our own senators say this plan is wildly optimistic and might leave us prone to attack by fringes of our movement, but seems like the best opportunity we have to sway the halls of power to our side. And inaction is something that we simply cannot afford. Okay, what about production efficiency cap, streamlined automation, flexible automation. I'm gonna go with streamlined automation because I don't really plan on fucking with our build very much. You know what? No, I'm going for military construction 4 and then we'll pivot over to that later. Can I? Still can't make an airborne division. God damn. God damn. Taking a long time to be able to do that. Alright, these are slowly getting there. How are we doing on, what are we building? The usual, okay. You know, to Paradox's credit, the, Crusader Kings 1.1, it covered a lot of ground. Like, they do seem like they care about their products. It just, sometimes, especially when it comes to sensitive topics, like the first peoples of the United States, Canada, Mexico, and the Americas, they really should have people who are experts, or at least have studied these cultures in depth, be advisors on these design decisions. Companies have done worse, right? In the past, they've done a lot worse. And Paradox, in comparison to many others, is doing a good job, but they could do better. The United States is a nest of vipers on a good day. For every insurgent do-gooder, there are 10 reactionaries, set in their ways and all but impossible to dislodge from personal fiefdoms back home. Nevertheless, we have to work with them. Radical shifts in the American party system have ensured that we have a variety of factions to consider working with. Liberal-minded Republicans, our base in the center, and then the far right of the MPP. We couldn't consider reaching out to the latter, though, be the ultimate Faustian bargain, regardless of the potential usefulness of the alliance. So the center, NPP center, make up 34% of the vote. The Democrats make up 23% of the vote. How are we doing on, Yeah, Republicans support us, our party supports us, the far right doesn't. No, you know what? Let's make sure our own party's still with us. Honestly, that's fine with me. Let's talk with Chavez. After the national strike propelled him to fame, Cesar Chavez became an icon of a new American labor union. Despite his aggressively socialist tendencies, he's beloved for his steadfast championing of the rights of Californian farm workers. Co-option of his base to our own could provide a powerful statement to the labor movement in America, as well as a personal moral victory for the unabashedly pro-worker Harrington over the establishment that he despises. The plan outlined in the Oval Office is to first meet with him privately and then in public with his fellow farm worker union heads, assuring him of our support. It'd be difficult to placate an already worried America about the nature of the talks, of course, and many on the airwaves are already railing against a red takeover of America, implied by such a bold move by the POTUS, but Harrington built his campaign on the promise he would not forget the poor, and promises are the lifeline of politicians in America. Well, no, money is, but sure, promises. An invitation from Germania. Führer Martin Bormann has sent a formal invitation to our nation. He invited us to participate as an observer in the North Sea Oil Conference, which will be designed to settle disputes surrounding German proclamation of Northern Sea oil rights. What the Germans would listen to the protestations of England is beyond us. Nonetheless, we'll send representatives of the American government over to watch over the proceedings and ensure our English allies are treated fairly. That's weird. Why are you... Norway, England, Denmark, and Scotland have all accepted Germany's invitation to the upcoming North Sea Oil Conference. Nautical borders will be settled and the status of the Northern Shelf settled once and for all. Why are we invited to this? Okay, focusing on the center. All the eccentricities and contradictions in the National Progressive Party can be found in Henry M. Scoop Jackson. Beloved by union organizers, an advocate for civil rights, staunchly anti-fascist. But at the same time, many of the planes that flattened Windhoek or would sit on Iceland airstrips were built in his home state of Washington. He's a progressive, yes, but one with a pro-war streak. He's a reliable, if occasionally critical, backer of the administration. That makes him the perfect candidate for congressional go-between. One of our legislative affairs staffers, a bright young South Africa vet named Perry Bullard, has already been put in a meeting in secret with some of Jackson's staffers. Hopefully this strategy will secure the base of our support, keep the MPP, however shakily, on our side. Delegates from Norway, Denmark, Scotland have all met up in the German city of Bremen, where they await the initiation of the North Sea Oil Conference. They've been provided with excellent accommodation on behalf of the German government. While some of these see this as a gesture of simple goodwill, others see it as a cynical negotiation tactic. United States delegates have also arrived, spending as much time deliberating with their English allies and acting just as suspicious about the luxurious treatment. I need more chromium. Can I get chromium without using a convoy? Yeah, from Guatemala, but not enough. So you know what? Union of South Africa, hello. You have so much chromium. So much. My god. Decisions are available. No. None of that. We're saving up for the big one. Delegates have gathered around a large circular table in a spacious meeting room. A rather unnecessarily large map of the North Sea is on display at the front of the room, framed by 2 German flags. In front of every delegate sits a glass of water, a pile of notes, a name card, and a small flag denoting their nation. German delegates at the conference have presented their deal to the conference attendees. They'll hold on to the claims over the North Sea oil rights. Anyone who disagrees will face vague consequences. If the foreign dignitaries yield, however, they must sign a scrap of paper signaling their nation's absolute acceptance. Alright, the conference is just do what we say. No. That's not gonna go over well, dog. The nations accept! After much debate inside the conference hall and private discussion outside of it, Norway, Denmark, and England and Scotland have agreed to Germany's wild demands in the name of peace. Reich's claim over the North Sea oil will remain undisputed. Each country present will recognize the legality of such claims. American delegates had a firm say in directing England towards its final decision, claiming any resistance to Germany's ultimatum could trigger a nuclear war between the OFN and Unity Pact. Delegates have returned to their countries of origin to face the judgment of their leaders with their tails tucked between their legs. What? Why were we even there if I didn't get a say in what we said? But okay. President Harrington wanted to slap whoever had left the painting up in the treaty room. More than one of the Filipino organizers had given it Sheraton Peace a pointed stare as they were walking in. For now, though, the accidental slight had been forgotten in tense discussions. United Farm Workers had been a herring agricultural tycoons of the Southwest for years. Their brand of grassroots labor organizing appealed to the White House. They'd be valuable allies if Harrington... Damn, well, just, keep saving up those useless channel points. I have on some channels like 100,000-ish. They're fun. I might implement those at some point maybe, but probably not, TBH. You'd be valuable allies if Harrington could convince them. Chavez's eyes never looked away from Harrington. He looked kind and understanding, but he was weighing and balancing every word that the president said. Every now and again, he looked at Dolores Huerta, the master of outreach and organizing, gauging her expression. Both heard the president say the right things about what the Department of Justice and congressional allies could do, about how much he admired their efforts and principles, made commitments to investigate abuse and mismanagement. After 2 hours, Chavez and Huerta nodded. You cannot oppress the people. You cannot oppress the people who are not afraid anymore. Work with the grassroots. It's time to return to the brick and mortar of our bid for office was built on. The grassroots movement in American cities and towns, primarily composed of middle and lower class workers, associations of the movement have links to labor unions and our own NPP centers organizations. By cutting out the middleman, meeting with them directly might prove to be a catalyst for a closer relationship. As a representative of the interests of the people, his organizations are our best bet for reaching a common man directly, outside of politics and the workplace. It should be fairly easy to accomplish in theory, but as with everything else, there are complications in practice. Who do we meet? What do we prioritize? Grassroots movement is too fragmented for a central power broker to control, let alone negotiate with. The administration must make difficult choices about who to meet and, by extension, who we leave out. Yeah, Fall Guys I just haven't touched in a while. It's fun, but I moved on to playing this and modding. And Ark, thankfully, I think we're done with. I'm done with anyway. I played a little Warzone yesterday, but there's only so much time in the day. When CK3 came out, I just dove straight into that, which is why we haven't been seeing much. Yemen has a civil war. Following a long period of strife within Yemen, civil war has finally broken out. Rebel forces, declaring themselves the Yemeni Democratic Arab Republic, have taken up arms against the monarchy. Italy and Saudi seem to have a common ground in King al-Badir, who's welcomed with the support of both groups with open arms. At the same time, attempting to keep himself as a reformist and keeping an alliance with the Saudi monarchy, al-Badir has played his cards well. Abdullah al-Salal, on the other hand, has support from a large portion of the military, himself a prior general of al-Badir's royal guard. Discontent within the monarchy, he intends to create a Republican and socialist Yemen, with support of numerous pan-Arabist movements, including Baathists, admirals of Nasser, and communists. Instability in the Middle East? How strange. Don't back a boycotter. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for a minute and revise and extend my remarks. Without objection, so ordered. Mr. Speaker, my distinguished fellow representatives, I read in the papers this morning, last week the President of the United States met with a number of members from United Farm Workers in the White House, promised them a great deal. Now the President is a member of my own party, but it doesn't preclude me from criticizing him when I think it's important. This matter is important. The United Farm Workers have fundamentally disrupted the American food system, bringing disorders to some of the country's most vital agricultural regions. I firmly believe, and I know many of my distinguished colleagues will agree, ceding ground to such fanatics is detrimental to security and prosperity of this great nation. Mr. Speaker, I cede the remainder of my time. Turkey's just hanging out with Syria and, you know, a lot of this. 17 People's Republic still hanging in there. You'll love to see it. Stonewall bust. Here we fucking go. Starts with the sudden blackout. 205 patrons of Stonewall stop and stare at the sudden dark. It's 1:20 a.m. outside. Bartenders reach for panic buttons as they try to calm their customers. 4 undercover officers curse as they fiddle with switches, and lights flicker back to life. Few who realize what's about to happen begin pushing their way through the crowd, but the Moral Squad have already locked down the few window exits and are marching through the doors, flashlights in hand, as they bust the biggest gay establishment in New York. Raid doesn't meet with the receptive crowd, to say the least. As officers lead those in women's clothing to toilets, many resist. It's common knowledge that those who get arrested by Moral Squad as cross-dressing don't make it out without bruises. Spit-drenched faces, manhandling. Men with faces lean and caked up with makeup wrestle with their cuffs and spit on their captors. None of the bar's patrons, you know, okay, some of them are men. Yes, some of them are women. And perhaps you can just say customers with faces lean and not throw around cross-dressing men. I'm sure there are men who identified as cross-dressers that were there, but there were also trans women that were at Stonewall. So this could use some cleaning up in your pronouns and your gendering of the Stonewall clientele. None of the bar's patrons have made it this far in a world which mostly despises them without getting a little rough around the edges. And when the man pushes them around, they push right back. By the time the raid concludes, about 150 people are under arrest, but more are gathering in the late night darkness of the Big Apple, and a storm is brewing that cannot be contained. The greatest LGBT riot in the history of the United States begins with the logistics problem. Morelos police have grabbed 28 cases of beer and 29 kegs of hard liquor, but with patrol vans occupied elsewhere, they have nowhere to put it. Instead, they keep the patrons on lockdown as the wagons arrive, far too slowly for a police operation. Patrons, of course, are understandably upset, and those few not under arrest quickly join growing crowds gathered outside the building. Many of them know that once the inn dies, so too does a living, breathing heart of the gay culture in the greatest city of the world. They have everything to lose. As mafia members and patrons are loaded onto wagons, many still struggling, a lone voice breaks out. "We shall overcome." A protest song written for the South African War finds receptive ears in another angry crowd facing another unwinnable fight. Growing cheers, growling, shouts of gay power echo from the crowds, which have swelled to the bursting in the street. Stormy Delavire, oh god, I can't pronounce that last name, falls to the floor struggling against 4 officers, and all hell breaks loose. Records are unclear about what happens next. In a wave of anger, mob pushes over police wagons, hurls bricks at officers retreating into Stonewall, presses garbage against broken windows. Many of the most repressed members of the gay community lead the riot. Leading a wild charge. Sylvia Riviera, notable... Again, no. Whatever. We'll remember it as the greatest night of her life. See, I'm moving on, but this could have been written better. It could have been written a lot better, and I'm not going to hammer on it too much, but this is disappointing and you could have done better. I'm glad it's in here, and I'm glad you didn't just not include the Stonewall riots, but do better. The doors of the inn are broken open with a battering ram. Officers inside prepare for a fiery last stand, and then the police trucks arrive. There are several dozen of them, seated in a gorgeously decorated 2-large room upstairs at a Boston public library. Boston. Radical academics from Tufts to Brandles. Housing activists from Roxbury and Columbia Point. A smattering of students from across the city, still jittery from the thrill of seeing a president that they campaigned for in person. Or even a couple of sympathetic state legislators, who hopefully wouldn't be facing a primary defeat for taking this meeting. President Harrington was always the happiest in spaces like this, full of people fighting for more than just world, for a more just world. He wasn't used to having everybody's undivided attention. They all spoke frankly. It was refreshing, hearing about the struggles of activists instead of fighting with Washington bureaucrats and pork shovelers. One of the activists, a young graduate from Mount Holyoke, one who worked the desegregator school back in '65, stood up and spoke for the better part of an hour, picking apart America's foundations with the skill of a surgeon. After the meeting, outside the library, a professor from MIT asked her name. She grimaced, ready to fight off another old man's come on, but he took a step back, palms up, conceding ground. It's Barbara Smith. What's yours? What's even the point of a riot if you can't hurl Molotovs at the cops? My fellow Americans, on Election Day, I ask you that you lend me your ears, your hands, your hearts, and minds. But more than anything else, I ask for your thoughts on how to better this great country. Today, I'm declaring that mandate fulfilled in your hearing. Over the course of the past year, I've listened at boardrooms, halls, union headquarters, in the Congress and the Senate, to those who would seek restoration of this great nation to the justice and the beauty it deserves. I'm humbled and honored to listen to you, the worker, the organizer, the common man. I've learned much, and now I'll seek much as well, for power begets responsibility, and responsibility, action. Now it's the time to move forward, to begin the carriage of the great fight for the poor into law and practice. We face much that stands in the way. Many listening to this still doubt me and despise the mandate that I was elected upon. I know many within the administration and within my own party will oppose me to their last minute in term. Yet with you, the American people, at my back, I feel emboldened to say this. The bright and shining city on a hill America was meant to be could still be ours. A shimmering vision in the desert. Let us begin a journey to that city today. The initial reaction is one of rage. Officers bloody and coated with garbage. An inn wrecked with violence. And the fairies did it. The fairies. Violence explodes on the street and police officers take the law into their own hands. Hammer their rage into the defenseless. Mob arrayed against them is far too gone to care. They form the rough outline of a cabaret chorus and begin to sing. Their voices are piercing in the late night. The police have had enough of being needled. They rush the line. Men and women are hammered with nightsticks as bedlam spreads to the surrounding streets. Crowds run around police officers laughing gaily like warriors in the light of burning cars. By the time the riots come to a halt, Christopher Street is blocked. Half the cars on it are overturned. Every garbage can for a mile around has been emptied into the street. Witnesses describe an odd beauty to the refuse-strewn street, like a river of broken toys. Of course, the streets aren't the only things breaking the news. All throughout the next day, crowds gawk at the burnout shell of Stonewall, and when the next night comes, they're joined by songwriters, poets, activists, tourists, washing down the streets in a tide of exuberant energy. Allen Ginsberg notes on the way back that the guys there were so beautiful, they've lost that wounded look that they all had 10 years ago. An incredible sight. Dave Von Ronk, a wonderful, wonderful musician, was actually there that night. Blew my mind to find out. Insurrection in Oman. Seems as if the wave of instability sweeping through the Middle East is far from over, as Oman becomes the latest nation to fall into civil war. Though reliable information is difficult to obtain, it seems the conflict began when the Qaboos, son of the previous Sultan Said, launched a coup against his own father. With the help of a local Italian garrison, Rome has so far refused to comment on events in Oman. Meanwhile, religious traditionalists and tribal elements have rallied around Ghalib al-Hinai, the Omani Imam, in the inhospitable region of Jabal Akhdar. Inhospitable is a silly word for a region that's inhabited. It's hospitable. There are people who live there. Don't use that word. With the strength of faith and Saudi support, they hope to restore theocratic rule to the country. Another insurrection took place in the western deserts of Dhofar, where a large coalition of pan-Arabists, communists, and Baathists rose under the partisan leader Layla Fakhro, hoping to turn Oman into a stronghold of pan-Arabism in southern Arabia. As three sides seem to be evenly matched, it's hard to predict what future holds for the Sultanate. Can I send volunteers to any of these? Not looking like it. Unsurprisingly. Okay, fair enough. Ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum. Senate votes for veteran benefits. News from the Senate floor was largely encouraging. If the floor speeches were any indication, as Defense Secretary Winter had pointed out, nobody was going to be so gauche as to criticize a bill to treat America's veterans well. Center and far right of the NPP were broadly in support and amounting a full-throated defense of the bill. Republican Democrats, for that matter, were speaking in broad platitudes about the bill's provisions, hailing the intent of the legislation. But the details were a different question. Time and time again, Democratic senators and even a few Republicans asked about money. Money, always the money. Harrington had been in Washington long enough to understand that when people wanted to criticize you quietly, they'd ask you about the money. A fitting fig leaf to disguise a lack of concern for America's soldiers in a language of responsibility. The debate wound on, and Harrington resisted the urge to call the Senate leadership for an update. Politics was a numbers game. Of course, they'd always been careful to package everything in a way that couldn't be opposed to the merits. Been endless whip counts, fine-tuning of individual clauses, hypothetical debates. Harrington's NPP had left nothing to chance. What does that grant? Because it looked like it granted nothing. Academic-based industrial expertise, poverty impact, hugely impactful. That monthly cost is pretty high, but yeah, we'll just ignore that. You want me to tone down the rhetoric? No. Reassure the upper class? What's our fatigue at? Fatigue. We'll double back, but I'm reducing the influence of the bourgeois. I should have opened up by doing that, but I didn't know it would become an option. Bourgeoisie. The other America. Harrington has consolidated the necessary support for his policies and cleared a path for the passing of legislation. It's time to begin in earnest. Comprehensive reform to education, healthcare, employment, welfare, everything must go. The system must be made anew. For every day the grimy underclass of America is allowed to suffer in lack is an impossible moral hazard. The president has outlined in a working paper he's termed The Other America a rough draft of what he's about to do. Not many have read it, but soon everyone will know its contents. The man in the White House will make sure of it. Only a few more days till we hit 200 and I can decrease that influence. And right now it says that Americans are displeased because it's weighing it by influence, and by far the most influential class are the bourgeois with an 80. So let's knock down their influence by something. They'll be decreased. How much? Who fucking knows? Game's not being very clear about that. Oman looks like they've won. Won one war. We're nearing the end of this year. Yeah, this episode took about an hour and a half. That's not surprising. Had a lot of events. And probably by the end of the year, we'll be looking at 200. Tackling the causes. Relations with everyone improves. Tackling the effects. Oh, Jesus. Okay, I'm really gonna only be able to get one of these done. Maybe both of these done, but this is gonna be a tough ask to get through all of this. This would focus on schools. This would focus on healthcare. What do we need to improve right now? I mean, massive stockpile, That's good. We don't need to improve this. Modern industrial equipment. I think this could improve mass mechanization. I mean, everything's already improving. So there's nothing super pressing. Where it's secondary schooling from primary schooling. So next would be tertiary and academic golden age. I'd kind of like to press this. Let's see. Can I get political power from any of these? 40 here. This gives stability. Do any of these... National Progressive Party weakens in the South, banning generational poverty, opening the League, Higher Education Act, eliminate poverty, working to solve poverty. Okay, these essentially do the same thing. This does it by fixing unemployment. This does it by giving healthcare and education. We already have some decent programs to this effect. Tell you what, I'm gonna go for education first, because that's what I tend to do. The president has emphasized the need to tackle what he believes are structural problems of America's ultimate malaise. Burdens keeping close to 50 million Americans below the poverty line, he believes extends not just to the salary or wage, but to the schoolhouse, the clinic, the courtroom, and the home. For this term, the president intends to focus on healthcare and education. No longer shall Americans have to pay for his poverty with the lifespan and lives of his children. We will lessen the burden of the poor and bring the underprivileged American household into the light. It will stand as a testament to the American dream. One nation, just, equal, with true freedom for all. Proposals old and new are floating around. The administration plans for extending medical care to all Americans, comprehensive wealth reform, vague plans to reduce racial bias. This has all been met with considerable uproar from both sides of the aisle, but we must push through. The president is a man of his word, and America is waiting its fulfillment. Oh. Diplomatic crisis 254. Description concerning reports. Okay. We need to improve anti-tank guns, so we'll pivot this to anti-tank equipment. I don't know what that was, but it doesn't seem good. It's mildly concerning. Dots on a screen. Diplomatic crisis 247. Description. There's an entire Japanese fleet along the way, apparently. I did not know that, but it seems as if that's the case. Okay, it seems a Japanese sub has sank, and we need to choose between whether we take the sub or we don't risk the defectors launching an attack on the western seaboard. Advise the president to sink it. No, you know what? We'll accept defectors. The White Horseman. Japanese will back off, or warn the Japanese that their business is to do nothing more than get their defectors back. They can fuck off. At death's doorstep, perhaps this will be a lesson for both Americans and Japanese to learn from. I guess we settled the crisis in our favor. So I guess I was wrong. Some of them do end up going okay. I guess. Without a lot of flavor, that was kind of meaningless, but that's okay. I want whichever one will give me the most political power. All right, that's 40 from this tree. All right, let's do healthcare first. Yeah, let's at least get regulating the insurance companies first so I can get the political power. The issue of healthcare. Healthcare is as necessary to any citizen as bread and butter. While the American healthcare system may be far superior to alternatives across the Atlantic and Pacific, there are some glaring issues with the system. Poorest Americans are continually trodden down by sky-high medical costs and poorly regulated insurance companies. Harrington intends to address both of these issues during his time in office. Drafting new legislation to ensure that those seeking healthcare get a fair deal is at the top of the agenda. Following that, Harrington plans to further challenge the injustices of healthcare both within the system and within the hearts and minds of the populace. There are some nebulous plans in place for a flagship program to amend the system once and for all, but for now, we just need to address the issues at hand. Do I have... reduce... Okay, I might just flip trees and go after more political power so I can potentially reduce the influence of the bourgeois even more. Because their influence is down to 75. It's progress, but it's not enough. We gotta keep beating at that. Death of President Ho Chi Minh. Soon after becoming first president of the Republic of Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh had fallen ill and died surrounded by his friends and comrades. After a lifetime struggle of fighting for the independence of its nation, the late Vietnamese president is now mourned by millions across Indochina for his toils and determination in leadership in the face of foreign domination. His solemn funeral was attended by many in its government, including now President Tuong Chin, who elected from his position as General Secretary of the Communist Party following a vote by the Politburo. He gave a moving and hopeful speech, reminding the people of Vietnam that death does not conquer the fight for independence, that Uncle Ho's fight for the nation, his freedom had not yet been in vain. Bum 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 ba 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 bum bum bum. Oh shit! I never bumped that up to that. Whoops. I need more chromium. Hey, South Africa. Hit me up with some of that good stuff. I know Cuba's right here and would be the more obvious one to go to, but I already made the choice. I'm gonna stick with it, for better or worse. Alright, let us regulate the insurance companies. Private insurance companies have historically been deregulated by state governments. This results in a wide discrepancy of corporate conduct from state to state, some companies utilizing lax regulations in certain states to avoid paying out to those who need assistance by citing obscure clauses and inane particularities in contractual agreements. We must close these dishonest loopholes to ensure our people receive the help that they deserve. The President wishes to ensure that all insurance companies across America must read from the same rulebook. Harrington intends to introduce a single federal set of regulations that will ensure that there is nowhere that the law can be used against people in need. Drafting and rolling out the regulations will take a while, but the effort will be worth it for the benefit of the people. Yeah, this will get me up past 160. If I pivot to the other tree and get that 40, probably not by the end of this year, but beginning of next year, I'll have enough to remove more influence from the bourgeois. Likely encouraged by developments within Yemen, the leader of the Free Officer Movement, Gamal Abdel Nasser, has sieged a large portion of Egypt, following an abortive coup against the monarchy. Following a failed coup and a subsequent revolt, Muslim Brotherhood, a group of Islamic militants led by Saeed Qutb, Qutb have themselves attempted to and failed to seize power, now fight against both the monarchy and the Nasserites. Muslim Brotherhood is heavily suspected to be funded and armed by the Saudis, despite Riyadh's official denial on the matter. This represents a greater issue within the conflict as it means the stoking of new tensions between Italy and Saudi Arabia. Well, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Sudan's having some trouble. Looks like Italy's colonial empire is starting to collapse. 1969 World Series. 1969 Major League Baseball season was drawing to a close as the dominant Baltimore Orioles, American League champions, squared off against the National League champions, the New York Mets. Both teams swept their opponents in the league championship games and were set to face off in this year's World Series. 1969 Baltimore Orioles squad had been considered one of the greatest baseball teams in the MLB's history. Led by slugger Frank Robinson and pitcher Jim Palmer, the team won 109 games and only lost 53. On the other hand, the Mets achieved their first ever winning season this year, led by coach Yogi Berra and his pitcher Nolan Ryan. Mid-October matchup would go down as one of the most shocking upsets in the history of baseball. Talented Baltimore team routed the Mets 4-1 on October 11th, but the Mets stormed back and won the final 4 games of the championship, defeating the Orioles 5-3 tonight in front of 57,000 fans. The team was quickly dubbed the Miracle Mets for the outstanding play against a formidable rival. It's the Mets' first World Series pennant. Good for them. Good for them. Flexible? No. Streamlined automation techniques. It's ironic I'm going for streamlined, given I have a whole line dedicated to just pivoting back and forth between whatever it seems I need the most, but you know what? Not right now. Free military factories. Speaking of... Alright, tell you what. This gets 5 more, this gets 5 more, that's doing great. This doesn't ever need 5 more. That doesn't ever need 5 more. Let's boost all of these up to 5 total. Alright, this is done. Jesus, dude. I don't fucking know. You know what? You're gonna make APCs. Why are you making APCs? Because I'm gonna try and recruit 24 more of these bad boys, and that's gonna take up a lot. So we'll go into recruit and deploy. We'll 1, 2, 3, 4. You're making 5. That's actually more than I need. I have all the equipment for that? Alright, once this is done, and this hits 24, I'll start up a whole new line. I can probably do it now. Yeah, it doesn't matter if we're negative on certain things. You know what, train 1, 2, 3, 4, bop, 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 bop. What am I short on? Not much, dude. Not much. What am I short on? APCs. I fucking knew it. Okay, well. We'll have a whole other army deploy to Chicago. And hopefully that will give me enough to give me more airborne divisions. Speaking of, National Guard, yeah, I need to outfit the National Guard with some more stuff. So we need to be working on that army experience. So hey, everybody, exercise. All right, it's October, and I really want... We're about to hit 200, but... That 40 political power could be nice. Where is it? Oh, it's not here. Yeah, it's not high enough up. Okay, you know what? Lowering healthcare costs. Insurance is rarely enough to entirely cover the cost of healthcare. And in the event of sudden illness, poorest Americans can find themselves out of pocket at the worst possible moment. Doctors do not deserve to be well paid for the work they do. Oh, do deserve to be well paid. I'm like, what? Do deserve to be well paid for the work they do, as do pharmaceutical companies for the medicines they provide, but we can do better for the people. By providing additional subsidies and medical practices and encouraging those within the system to root out inefficiency, we can drive down the cost of healthcare for the average consumer. This will ensure that impoverished patients can get the treatment that they need, while doctors can still get well-earned paychecks. Let me guess. I need more rubber now. Okay. Train with Brazil? No. Train with the Union in South Africa? Listen, who's exporting the most? Jesus, none of you are exporting very much. It's all in Japan. Fuck. Okay. Hey, South Africa, I'd like 1. And then we're just gonna go here into construction and get rid of that. Let's talk about synthetic refineries. I need quite a few of these, huh? Yep. Sure seems like it. Will that do? Feel like that'll do fine, thank you. Let's just move these to the top of the list. And let's work on getting some more rubber. Tune down the rhetoric? Never will tone down the rhetoric. I'm going to reduce the influence of the bourgeois, so help me God. Oh? Is Egypt sorted? Italian Egypt is a thing. I don't know if I'd call that sorted, but it's something. Reduce the influence of the bourgeois, fickleness of the crowd. Every month, our supporters' enthusiasm will decay based on accumulated fatigue. But it doesn't say what the fatigue is. Oh, exhaustion is non-existent. Great, reduce the influence of the bourgeois. Shit, they're attacking Saudi Arabia outright. Damn, Yemen. Get it. The ball's on Yemen. Good God. They're gonna win. The death of Joseph Kennedy. Spokesman for the Kennedy family reports today that former President Joseph P. Kennedy passed away in his Massachusetts home at 81, survived by his wife and 6 children. The elder Kennedy leaves behind a complicated legacy. His successive patriarch of the Kennedy dynasty was substantial, as his sons John, Robert, and Edward all made names for themselves in the political sphere. The elder Kennedy was elected president in 1932, presided over the slow recovery of the United States from the Great Depression. Despite serious criticisms for his non-interventionist policy, both in economic and foreign policy, he won a second term in 1936. The second term was mainly defined by Kennedy's continued reluctance to intervene in a European war, and failure to fully prepare the United States for global power projection against the empires of Japan or Germany. Kennedy was a source of much criticism in the aftermath of his presidency, which only increased after his failed intervention in England and the signing of the Agaki Accords with his successor, President Truman. The Democrats would not hold the White House for another 2 decades, when his son John F. Kennedy succeeded the disgraced President Nixon. Kennedy had spent years after his presidency retired from public life, having lost his son Joe Jr. in a bombing raid over the Pacific, but he reemerged to help with his son's bid for vice presidency. However, the elder Kennedy kept himself out of the public eye due to widespread criticism of comments he made advocating détente with Germany to focus on confronting Japan. Refused to help with his son Robert's presidential campaign in 1964. Regardless of how the American people remember him, Kennedy left a lasting mark on the nation's history. His family will most likely continue to have a major role in politics for the foreseeable future. Healthcare costs lowered. Let's get the Federal Healthcare Regulations Act. After studying the healthcare crisis in detail, Harrington has developed solutions, ranging from forcibly lowering drug price costs, reducing inefficiencies, developing uniform insurance company regulations. The president is ready to send his bill to the floor of the White House, or the floor of the House. His bill is not only a healthcare bill he intends to pass, but it's a crucial first step. It tightens and standardizes regulations on insurance providers at the federal level, and make it possible for insurance providers to deny coverage based on pre-existing conditions. For example, passing the first bill would make it easier for Medicare to get through in the future. Funny, don't we already have universal health care? Didn't I do that as... Didn't I do that as LBJ? No? Maybe not. Okay. Oh well, I guess I was wrong about that. I need 9 more rubber. I can't get that from any one source. It does not seem worth it to me to blow 3 transports to get that? Oh my god, we're exporting 94 rubber. I'm exporting rubber to South Africa, and I'm importing rubber from South Africa. What? What the fuck? Does it make sense? No. Does it need to make sense? I'd like for it to make sense, right? I really would. It doesn't need to, but like right now it's some weird ass bullshit. Okay, I can get better resource extraction and then improved rubber processing to fix our rubber problem. That's very tempting, right? But also, we're right on time for all of these new planes. No new guns, right? Yeah, fortunately no new guns. And new artillery pieces, new APCs, new planes, new ships, new fucking everything at this point. So I think this will have to wait. This is nice, but more important to me right now is locking down better equipment. Oh god. New APCs, and I'm already short on them. Oh, fuck. Yeah, go ahead and research it. This is gonna suck, but go ahead and research it. Now, the new APCs make the rubber even more important. Yep. Advanced industrial automation. That's sweet. Better artillery. God, this is gonna take another 125 days. Not worth, Alex. Not worth. You should have focused on something else. Let's do it now. Voting on the FHRA. Improving healthcare for everyone should be an easy sell, but American politics is nothing, not aggravating. MPP whips and aides have spent the last several weeks leaning on every party legislator, along with plenty of liberals from across the aisle. All stops have been pulled out. Discreet diners and DC townhouses, activist groups staging sit-ins at senators' offices. Hearings have been held, with witnesses ranging from doctors to economists to impoverished elders begging for life-saving care. The FHRA is personal for President Harrington. Many of those elders were people he's met before. Grimy apartments on ramshackle farmsteads. Success in the FHRA can mean the lives of millions across the country will dramatically improve. If it fails to pass, though, it'd be a dramatic loss for the Harrington administration. No denying that. Even more so for the country. Who could vote against letting people go to the doctor? I'll tell you who. Fucking conservatives, that's who. I'm gonna go push past the AMA. The American Medical Association has caused headaches for progressive Americans since its inception. It's upheld racial segregation within its constituent groups. It combats any attempt to implement medical malpractice laws, even blocked attempts to hire physicians fleeing Nazi domination in Europe. Today, it presents single greatest lobbying threat to President Harrington's healthcare reform. The AMA has launched an outreach campaign they call Operation Coffee Cup to turn the public against Medicare. But since doctors are educated men, perhaps they can be reasoned with. Harrington will reach out to the AMA to negotiate. He'll sit down for coffee with them and explain that by better providing care to all Americans, it will be upholding their Hippocratic oath. He'll say that he could potentially compromise on doctors' salaries and prescription drug prices and assure them that they'll still have a future under Medicare. Only a week left, and sounds like the trash is going out in the alley. Alright, we're done with that. Artillery's locked down. Naval, I really don't care that much about updating our Navy. Better helicopters, though. Would this actually improve our divisions that use it? No, right? This would. Yeah, and I don't need to be producing... Yeah, I don't need to be producing a new variant, not right now anyway. So aircraft then becomes the, you know what? Nope, on a sweet resource extraction. Let's go for this, so I can get more rubber, so I don't have to import it anymore. And 31. Bam, boom, there goes 1969. All told, not a bad year. Not at all a bad year. We'll plop in a save here. Load this one, my dude, number 7. Now, I think I'm going to keep streaming for another year here, but if you are watching this on YouTube after the fact, this is going to be it for today. Until tomorrow, I'm going to say toodaloo. Take care. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.